Okay, so we are in Chaf Vav, or in Chaf Vav B, the Chaf Vav A rather. So 26A. We're about 20 or so. I feel 24 lines from the top, I think. The last word on the line is, well, the first word on the line is lefi. We're in the middle of that line. The first word on the line is lefi. So I think it's about 24 lines on the top. I'm not sure exactly, but so the the Gemara had just asked why is it that it's dealing with the machlokas in the Mishnah. The Mishnah is discussing why you can't use the horn of a cow for a chauffeur. I guess a cow. Yeah, here we go. The horn of a cow for a chauffeur. So the Gemara says, the Mishnah says that the reason why is because the horn of a cow is called a carrot. That is the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. I'm sorry, that's the opinion of the Tanna Kama. Rabbi Yossi says, but all horns are called karen somewhere in the Torah, meaning it's only called a karen and it's not called a chauffeur. And Rabbi Yossi says, but again, every chauffeur in the Torah, every horn at some point in the Torah is called a karen. So what's the difference? And the Gemara had answered previously that all chauffeurs are called chauffeur and karen. However, the horn of a cow is only called a karen; it's not called a chauffeur. And that's the Gemara's answer to explain that. The Gemara also offered another. We stopped in the middle. The Gemara offered another problem with it. Is that we'd have an issue which is referred to as ein ketega nases an eger. The defense attorney can't also be the prosecutor, or rather the prosecutor can't be a defense attorney. So if the Kohen Gadol if anybody's trying to get tshuva, you're trying to get tshuva from Hashem for an avera, meaning, and the main avera that Klal Yisrael always is doing tshuva for is the avera of the chet ha'egel. The chet ha'egel on a national scale is the equivalent of the sin of Adam Harishon. So that's what we need to know. So Adam Harishon, it's the what's the word I'm looking for? But the most basic sin of humanity. Everything is built on Adam Harishon. On a national scale for the Jewish people, it's chet ha'egel. So as the sin of the golden calf. So you don't. So the Gemara is saying if we're trying to be mechaber for all like sin, you can't bring up the chet ha'egel. And if you brought up if you use the calf's horn, you're bringing up the chet ha'egel while you're trying to get tshuva on Rosh Hashanah. You can't do that. That's what the Gemara's answer is. So we now just keep in mind, we're going to give about 3 or 4 reasons why. We're going to continue to bring different people who are going to give reasons why we can't use a calf's horn in order to for a chauffeur. The reason the Mishnah brought had to do with it's not called a chauffeur, it's called a carrot. But the Gemara is going to keep introducing different opinions that are going to say, well, yeah, that's one reason, but there's also another reason. So we're going to wind up with like a whole list of reasons. And each Amora, each one that brings in their reasons is going to say, one reason is because it's not called a chauffeur. But here's another reason. And the next Amora is going to say, one reason is because it's not called a chauffeur. Here's another. It's going to keep doing that. So the reason that we're doing that right now is Rav Chisli. He says, because the ein ketega nases an eger, the prosecutor can also be a defense attorney. The Gemara says, but wait a second. If we're in the middle of that reason. If you're saying that you can't use a chauffeur because it's bringing up the chet ha'egel and the prosecutor can't be a defense attorney. So it says, v'lo v'ha iga dam par. When the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur goes into the Kodesh Kodashim, and now the first word on that line is ika. V'ha ika dam par. When the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur goes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, he takes blood of a calf. So what are you talking about? He's bringing that into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Why don't you say ein ketega nases an eger? It's going to bring up the sin of the golden calf, meaning the Kohen Gadol has to spritz. Spritz, an English word, spritz. The Kohen Gadol has to spritz. I don't. They say it sounds like they would use it in English. Do they use that in English? Spritz. It sounds like it. Huh? Spritz. So in any case, the Kohen Gadol has to spritz the blood of the calf between. He has to do it between the poles of the in the Kodesh Kodashim. After he brings the Ketoris in the Kodesh Kodashim, he spritzes the blood of the calf between the poles of the Aron in the Kodesh Kodashim. He also does it facing towards the Parochas. He also puts it on the Mizbeach HaZahav. He does it so many times. That's when the Kohen Gadol says achas, ve'achas, achas, v'shtayim, achas. So what are you talking about? Ain't you taking a siniga? You bring up the golden calf. The Gemara says, no, that's not a problem. It says whole v'shtani. Because it doesn't look like a calf anymore. It's just blood. It's like a whole. It doesn't. It's a whole different. It's changed. It's not bringing it up so much. The Gemara says, okay. V'ha'ika aron v'kaporas ukruv. The Gemara says, but wait a second. What about the Gemara? The Gemara previously said, I should sing up. The Gemara previously said, you know what else this applies? It applies. That's why the Kohen Gadol doesn't wear his gold begadim. That's the word coming out of here. I'm translating his gold garments. Thank you. That's my problem. My biggest problem is going back and forth in the translation. It's so hard for me so early in the morning. So his gold garments, he doesn't wear all his gold garments in the Kodesh Kodashim. He switches to white because again, it would bring up the golden calf. So the Gemara asks, wait, there's a gold Aron and gold angelic figures that are sitting in the Kodesh Kodashim. So what about that? It's going to bring up the golden calf. The Gemara says, yeah, you know what? That's not a problem because Cholta Bal Yaakov coming on it. What we mean is that the person who's coming to the person who is representing the sinners can't bring in something else, can't come in and bring in something that's going to remind Hashem, so to speak, of the calf. It's a chutzpah. Like you can't come in and bring in something that's going to remind him of the calf. So it said the reason why he can't wear the gold begadim is because he'd be bringing in something that reminds of the avera. The reason why he can't use the shofar of a calf is because it's going to remind Hashem of the avera. And the Gemara had asked earlier, but and the Gemara had said this only applies to inside the Kodesh Kodashim. It only applies to inside in the inner chambers. The Gemara is going to ask. Wait, did we see that part already? I'm sorry. Fine. The Gemara is going to ask soon that the Kohen never takes. No, never. We're talking about blowing the shofar of Rosh Hashanah. He's not in the Kodesh Kodashim. What are you talking about? But the Gemara is going to pause on that question for a second. So the Gemara again. Let me start that one more time. The thesis is the reason why why we can't use a shofar on Rosh Hashanah is because it's going to remind Hashem of the golden calf. And this is just like the halacha of why the Kohen Gadol can't walk in with his gold garments on Yom Kippur because it's going to remind Hashem of the golden calf. That's why he can't walk into the Kodesh Kodashim. The Gemara says, the Gemara says the Aron is there. Says, yeah, but the Aron is there. He's not walking in with it. Now the Gemara says, but he brings in the ladle and the shovel. They're gold on Yom Kippur. They're gold. Says, yeah, you know what? That's also not a problem. Because it's only if he's coming adorned in it, not if he's coming to bring it in as part of the service. Where it says, big day zahav mi b'chutz. But what about he wears the golden garments in the heichal, even though it's not in the Kodesh Kodashim, he wears the golden garments in the heichal. Why is that not a problem? It says mi b'fnim coming. It's only inside the Kodesh Kodashim that's a problem. The Gemara says shofar nami b'chutzu, but we never bring a shofar into the Kodesh Kodashim. That's not something that we ever do. The Gemara says kevid l'zikaron hu kib'fnim dami. Since the whole purpose of the shofar, one of the purposes of the shofar is it's the Yom Zikaron. It's brought for the Zikaron. It's trying to remind Hashem. So that's just like it's Bifnim, meaning it has the same. It's trying to bring it into the inner chamber, so to speak, of the Zikaron of Hashem. So that's like it's Bifnim. So the Gemara says basically that the shofar is a problem because it's like you're bringing it into the Kodesh Kodashim when you blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, and it is and it'll remind Hashem of Ein Kitigan Asek Sneger. It'll be like a prosecutor, a defense attorney, the prosecutor being the defense attorney. The Gemara says, V'hatana. But okay, so we got that. But that's not what the Mishnah said. The reason was, and the Gemara is going to keep bringing up this question again and again. V'hatana mipnei shu Karen kamar. The Mishnah said the reason was because it's called the Karen. It didn't say anything to do with defense attorneys or prosecutors. What do you want? So Gemara says, Chad ve'od kamar. There's one reason brought in the Mishnah, and there's another real reason, which is the reason we just said. Ein kitegan asas sneger, chada ein kitegan asas sneger. The ode, and another reason mipneshu Karen, because it's called a Karen and it's not called a shofar. Rabbi Yossi Amalacha. Now, how would Rabbi Yossi, who does allow the horn of a calf to be used for a shofar? Rabbi Yossi Amalacha the ka'amras. Rabbi Yossi will deflect this by saying that which you said, the problem of Ein Kitega Nazas and Eger, it's not working. Yeah, is Hani Miblim Vashofar. He won't go for this answer of it being brought as a zikaron. He'll say that Ein Kitega Nazas and Eger, that this defense attorney, the prosecutor acting like a defense attorney, that only applies to inside the Kodesh Kodashim. And he won't go for the extension that a shofar is like it's inside the Kodesh Kodashim. He won't go for that. So he won't have an issue. He won't have an issue with that. Udika amras, and he will answer Udika amras mipneshu Karen, and that which you said because it's a Karen. Kol shofar, kol shofars. Let's line kol shofars nami ikru Karen. All shofars are called the Karen. Okay, I don't know why that's happening. Hold on 1 second. Let me just see. That's fine. Okay, fine. Now that's one full answer. So one full answer is that answer for Chista that it's called a Karen and it's never called a shofar, and it's also because of Ein Kitega Nasas Neger, the prosecutor can't be the defense attorney. So whatever it is. Amar Abai is giving a whole other answer. Shofar Amar. The reason why the Rabbanan really don't allow us to use the Torah doesn't allow us to use a shofar of a calf is because shofar Amar Rachmana. The Torah says use a shofar. V'lo shnayim u'shlosha shofars. And you can't use 2 or 3 shofars at the same time. What does that mean? The had the para kaven de koi gildi mechzik shnayim u'shlosha shofars. And that of a para is the shofar grows in layers, I guess. And it's not my forte again, but because there's different layers that as it gets older, it layers and layers and layers, as opposed to, I guess the layers could theoretically be pulled off of the Karen. I don't know, but it's a different. It doesn't. I guess it's not like a bone that gets hollowed out. It just keeps, it's layers. I'm not exactly sure, but that's what Rashi says. So it has this. It has an appearance. It has a kind of 2 or 3 kind of shofars feel to it. So it'd be like you were blowing in 2 or 3 shofars at the same time. So so that's that's another reason. But the Gemara asked the same question. It's going to continue to ask. The Mishnah didn't say that was the reason. The Mishnah said it because it's called the Karen. So Abai answers like we answered before. Chadav od kamers. Really, there's 2 reasons. Chada, the shofar echad amar Rachmana. One reason is because it says shofar, and not more than 1 shofar. The ode, and another reason is mipnei shehu Karen, because it is called a Karen. And Rabbi Yossi will deflect these questions. Amalacha, the ka'amar shofar echad amar Rachmana v'lo shleim shofars keved de mechabre adade chadhu. He won't hold for this reason of 2 or 3 shofars because all the layers are attached together. So it's really like 1 shofar. It's not. That's like it's a stretch to say it's like 2 or 3 shofars. It's 1 shofar. All the layers are really attached together. They fuse together as it grows. So that's not 2 or 3 shofars. We took amras, and that which you said, B'peshu Karen. So Gemara says, Kol shofar nami ikru Karen. Every shofar is also called the Karen. Fine. So we sum total 4 different reasons why we can't use the shofar of a calf. One of them because Ein Kitega Nas Sneger, it's reminding Hashem of the avera of the Ched Egel. One reason is because it looks like 2 or 3 shofars. One reason is because another reason is because what do we say? It's called carrying is the final one, and that's the main one in the Mishnah. But isn't there one more? No, that was also maybe it was only 3 reasons, not 4. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. How come I just had this in my mind that there was another reason, but I guess it's not. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So now the Gemara goes on and it says like this. Now the Mishnah had said, Rabbi Yossi quoted the pasuk, Bimshoch Karen HaYovel. Bimshoch Karen HaYovel. So, which means with the sounding of the shofar of a ram. So the Gemara says, ask a question. My mashma the HaYovla lishna de dichra. Where do we see? How do we know that? I don't know why this is not working. It's really annoying. How do we know that Yovel? How do we know that the word Yovel is means ram? Ditanya, as we have in a brisa. Amar Rabbi Akiva. Kishalachti Aravia. When I went to Aravia, Hayukarin ledichra Yovel. They used to call a ram a Yovel. That's what they called it, a Yovel. So we see that Yovel is also means a ram. Now the Gemara is going to go into all these bunch of other definitions, which it's just taking definitions, showing these stories of how Rabbi Akiva learned to translate different words from his travels. Rabbi Akiva, Shalachti legalia. When I went to Kishalachti legalia, when I went to Galia, you call the Nida Galmuda. When I was in a place called Galia, they used to call a Nida. A woman who menstruates, they called a nida a galmuda. What's galmuda mean? Galmuda means gemula dami baila. She's separated from her husband, so they called her a galmuda. That was the word that they used to translate nida. Rabbi Akiva, kashalachli la'afriki. When I went to, I guess it's Africa. Hayukaran lama kasita. It says kashita. I think it's kasita. In any case, either way, they called a ma'a, which is an amount of money, right? They called it a kasita. My nafkamina. What's the difference if you call it a kasita ma? The Perusha me kasita daraisa, me danki. In order to understand when the pasuk says me kasita, it says it in the Torah by Yaakov. He bought from me kasita, so that's me danki. It's referring to that's the amount of money, 100 danki. Amar Rabbi, kishalachti. Now it's going to Rabbi. Kishalachti l'charchei hayam. When I went to the I guess the city ports. The mechira kira. They used to use it for the word mechira for a sale. They used to call it kira. Who cares? The perushi asher karisili. That to understand the words that was sold to me, a sale it could be a karisi. Amar B'Shem ben Lakish. When I went to this place called Chum Kain, Nishraya hayukorin lakal Nishraya hayukorin lakala ninfi. They called a kala a ninfi and a tarnagol sechvi. This one actually is gonna help. It's gonna be more usable to us. But the kala ninfi, they called the kala ninfi. My kra yefei nof mesos kola aretz. The pasuk says that it's a beauty that surrounds the city. That gladdens the city. Yefei nof. So that a ninfi means it's a kala that it's a simcha that brings into the city. Uletarnagol sechvi. Where does it say a tarnagol that a rooster they called a sechvi? Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav Biba Yisema Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. My kra what pasuk kishas betuchos chachma omi nasan lesechvi bina. So if you should recognize those words, it's the first bracha we say in the morning. Asher nasan lesechvi bina. We're going to bring it up right. That's where it comes from here. Mi nasan l'sechvi bina. Who is the one? Mi shas betuchos chachma. Who fills our innards with wisdom? That's referring to eliklayas, the whatever the inner one of the inner organs. O mi nasan l'sechvi bina. Who's the one that gives the sechvi bina? Zet tarnagol. It's referring to the rooster. So what the pasuk is saying is that Hashem is the one who gives a human being in his innards chachma, and he gives the tarnagol, he gives the rooster the wisdom to separate between day and night, the insight to separate between day and night. Okay, in the pasuk, actually, in the bracha in the morning, it says Asher nas on the sech vivina. You'll see two different translations. Either Hashem gives a rooster, or Hashem gives the mind. Both of them are translations. It's interesting because according to the Machaber, according to the Shulchan Aruch, we don't pass on this way, but according to the Shulchan Aruch, you make that bracha when you hear the rooster crow. When you hear the rooster, whatever. Crow? What's the word? What do roosters do? Crow? I don't know what they do. Whatever they do. Yeah. I used to have a neighbor that when I lived in Israel, my first year I was married, I had a neighbor. My upstairs neighbor had a rooster. And he used to go in the morning at like,
your upstairs neighbor had a rooster, did you say?
Yeah, it wasn't. And at first I was so upset. I was like, it's 4:20 in the morning, and it's like, and I'm like, seriously? It was. We lived in a duplex house, so it wasn't like there was anybody on top of them. We were bottom and they were on the top, and we were renting. And then I was like, you know what? I get to make the bracha according to the Shulchan Aruch. That's a rooster crying. That was the least of the problems that we have with that upstairs neighbor, huh?
Did he have a backyard for chickens, or did he just keep it in his
apartment? Don't know. I think they had it on their porch in Israel, but I don't know. But that was like the least of the problems, because once we found out that kid was a drummer, and that was much more difficult. And the kid was like a rock, like trying to be a rock star drummer. So it was all night. It was unbelievable.
I'll make sure Riley starts to practice the flute on the porch.
You know what? At this point, it's going to be drowned out by that. This is my first year married. To be drowned out by everything else going on in the Spivak house. Levi came to this place. Asa Gavra Kame. He came to a certain place, and an individual came in front of him. We return to the page. Amarlite to 626b. Kovan Planya. He said to him, Kovan Planya. Lo hava yada my kamarlai. And Levi had no idea what that meant. What do you mean Kovan Planya? It means that I was ripped off by Plonier. So it sounds like. So somebody Planya, an individual, Kovan, he stole from me, I think it sounds like. Or it means, yeah, he stole from me, I think. So lo hava yada. Levi didn't know what he was saying. My kamar. He came to the base medrash. Levi came to the base medrash test. Amarle Gazlan. Amarlacha. He said that he's a Gazlan. I don't know if he said that he's a thief or he was stolen from. I can't tell. Do you have a translation of that? What does it say? He's what?
You robbed me.
Oh, that someone robbed me. He would say that someone robbed him. Tichsiv hayikva adam elokim. Fine. Amalei Rava. From that, then that brings a pause for that. Amar Rava Barnish the Ravashi. Rav Barnish said to Ravashi, "I havai hasam hava amina le hechi kavan, but my kavach hechi kavach my kavach amai kavach umela hava yadana." So Rava Barnish said to Ravashi, Levi didn't understand what this guy was saying. So Levi kind of just looked at the guy like, you're speaking another language. No speak of English. He had no idea what he was saying. Then Levi came to the base manager and said, does anyone know what this guy said to me this morning? And they said, the guy was telling you he was just robbed and he was asking you for help. So Levi's like, oh, okay. So now Rava Barnish commented to Ravashi about this story. And he said, if I was there, when he heard this story, he said, if I was there, I would have just kept on asking him questions. How are you kavached? How are you, but with what were you kavached? When were you kavached? Until I would have figured it out by context. So why didn't Levi do that? So Levi was afraid that the guy was saying something that was aser. He said he was kavached. He didn't know that if the guy was going to tell him something that was lashon hara or something that was aser. So Levi didn't want to ask any questions. He said, "Okay, fine." So, Lo yadai rabbanan my sirugin. They didn't know what the word sirugin means. There's a bunch of places in Mishnayos that mentions doing something sirugin. For example, it says in the Mishnah in Megillah, it says reading the Megillah sirugin. The Rabbanan didn't know what sirugin is, and now we're one just in case 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines from the top. The Rabbanan did not know what the word sirugin meant. Shmuel Amsa Debei Rebbe. Now this Amsa Debei Rebbe was this maid servant of Rebbe. She was a maid that worked in Rebbe's house, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi's house, and she would constantly teaching the Rabbanan things that she knew from Rabbi. She was very observant and she was very quick to learn. And when the Rabbanan would come over, because the Rabbanan were always coming over to Rabbi's house because he was the Nasi, and they would have questions. She would say, Rabbi does. I could relate to this because I actually have my Rabbi, one of my Rebbeim, his wife over the years. I mean, they've been married for a long time, whatever, 40, whatever years. And she is so versed in halacha. So I know that when you call up, I just happen to know this person, when you call up and ask a question, if she'll, because he never picks up the phone unless it's like an emergency question, call up and ask a question. She will say, hold on, let me ask him, even if he's not home. She'll say, let me ask him. She'll hold down the phone for like 20 seconds. She'll come back. She said, he said it's okay. And she's answering the question. She just doesn't want people to feel like they're going to second guess her. So he said it's fine because she knows how he holds on everything. So she just, and he said, she goes, she's so good. She's so good at it. She knows it so well. Any case, but so they used to ask the maidservant of Rabbi, his maid, she would always tell them things. So he says, so they didn't know what this word seirigan in the Mishnah. So reading something seirigan. My comment is Shemuel Amsa de Rabbi. So she used the word around them. Shemuel Amsa de Rabbi, the chazasu rabbanon, the hava eyelid piski. They heard this Amsa de Rabbi, this maidservant of Rabbi, when the rabbanon were coming in like in different groups. Armalu, she said to them, why are you coming in? Seirigan. So Seirigan really means that they're coming in blurts, clumps, different, groups. The Mishnah there in Megillah, therefore, is telling you can't read it, the Megillah in pieces. Okay, I'm going to read piece now. I'm going to take a stop, have a little something to eat, do something else, and then come back and read the next piece. And then Seirigan means to read it in, you can't read it in pieces. That's to be read together. Amalu. Lo avu havu yodei rabbanon my chalu glogos. They didn't know what the word chalu glogos is. Yom achad Shmuel Amsa de Rabbi. One time they heard the Amsa de Rabbi, again the maidservant. The chazis lahau gaver the ka mivader parchine. Oh, they saw him, I guess, like playing with his hair. No, what does that mean? No, it's parfachine is some sort of vegetable. Herbs. It's some sort of herbs. Yeah, Rashi says it's a vegetable. It's some sort of herb. That's all Rashi says. He has some more vegetable. So what was he doing? It says, the Mishnah says, it says in Yuma that all 7 days the Kohen Gadol wouldn't eat from shum and chalu gloglos. So they didn't know what chalu gloglos was. They didn't know. So she once saw that he was, what was he doing with this vegetable? I don't know. He was doing something with this herb. What are you going to keep wasting, I guess, or playing with these chalu gloglos? So they knew chalu gloglos was this herb. They didn't know what the word salsala, what it means. Salsala chipus v'hafach bematmonim shel Torah. I don't know. They didn't know what the word salsala and Torah mecha is. Yom echad Shmuel la'amsa de Rabbi dava kamers lahau gaver dahava kamahafech b'sareh. They once saw a person. I can't even demonstrate for you. I would try, but they can't. They once saw a guy who was playing with his hair. He was flipping around his hair while he was speaking. She said, "Amarlei, I must say a time salsa b'sarecha. Why do you keep playing with your hair locks?" Lo yade rabbanan mai v'tateh b'mateta. The Rabbanan didn't know what it means. The pasuk, it says v'tateh b'matata hashmade. So Yom Echad Shemuel the Amsa de Rabbi. One time they heard the Amsa de Rabbi to have a amra the chavirta. They saw this, the maidservant of Rabbi speaking to her friend. Shaklui tateta v'tate besa. Go take the broom and sweep the floor. So they understood that means to sweep. It means lo av yad rabbanan mai hashlach al Hashem yavecha v'hu yichal kalecha. that you should. They didn't understand what it meant that you should throw your load onto Hashem and He'll support you. Amar Rabbi Rav Chana Yom Echad Hava Azlina Bahadi Hau Taya. They didn't know what this means. He didn't know what it meant that you should throw your yavecha on Hashem. So he saw this I guess an Arab to have a drina tuna. He was carrying some sort of load. He said, take your yavecha and throw it onto my camel. So he said it means a load. Okay, now we got all these translations from all these different places. Back to the Mishnah, new Mishnah. Shofar shel Rosh Hashanah shel yal pashat. The shofar of Rosh Hashanah should be from a yael, a straight yael. Yael, how does it translate the word yael? What animals? A goat? A wild goat. I'm not, it's not my forte exactly what the difference between a wild goat and regular is, but it should be a yael pashat. It should be a straight shofar with a straight shofar from a wild goat, upiv metzufa zahav. And it's the mouth covered with gold, ushtei chatzotzos min hatzadim, and two trumpets are on the side of it. Okay, I should have preempted this. This is the way that they did it in the Beis Hamikdash. A whole different show in the Beis Hamikdash. I said that one more time. This is the way it was done in the Beis Hamikdash. Shofar shel pasha. They used a wild goat straight shofar. Upiv metzufa zahav, and the mouth of the shofar was covered with gold. Ushtei chatzotzos min hatzadim, and they had two trumpets on the side when the shofar was blown. Shofar ma'arach. What would happen is they would all blow together. Shofar ma'arach. The shofar would continue v'chatzotzos mekatres, and the chatzotzos would stop early. Why? Shemitzvah yom b'shofar. Because the mitzvah of the day was with shofar, so they would all like blast together, like I guess the chatzos would go, and they just to make this big blast at the beginning, and the shofar would continue, and they would stop. Whole different experience than ours. But when it came to a tinus, b'shel zacharin, we're in the Mishnah.
Yes.
Oh, hi, go. So,
Hey, how you doing?
You're just waving to me. I don't know.
I had to reboot. Page check position, please.
26b
26B.
in the Mishnah, dead center. It's probably dead center of the page in the Mishnah. Okay. Ubetinus, and on a fast day, b'shel zacharim kefufim, we use zacharim. Sorry, ram should be rammed, right? They use horns of male horns. I think whatever. Fine. A gabel goat is a ram. Is that the same animal? What is it? What is a male goat? A goat is a male, right? As a male, I always confuse. Male goat is a ram, or is that a goat and sheep are the same family? I always forget. I really don't know. What?
I don't think
In the Torah, they're grouped all the same. So they're all So that's how you can no. They're referred to separately, but they can be grouped the same. You have cattle and you have flock, and flock is goats are part of flock, and their grouping is the same. So I can't remember. I don't know how they. That's huh? It's a ram. Okay, so on Tinus shel zacharim kefufim, on a Tinus you have these bent ram horns, upi mitzufa kasev, and the mouthpiece is covered with silver. Ushtei chatzotzos be'emtza, and the two horns are in the middle. On the middle of so you have, I guess, two shofars on the side that are bent ram, and they have they're covered with silver, and two horns are in the middle. Shofar mekater, the shofar goes short, v'chatzotzos marichos, and the horns are blown longer. Shemitzvah yom chatzotzos, because the mitzvah of the day are with the horns. Yeah. Trumpet. Yeah. Is that okay? Yeah. Trumpet. Sorry. Okay. Shava Yovel Rosh Hashanah l'tikiya v'lebrachas. Yeah, and Yovel is the Yovel when we have to blow the shofar on Yovel for the tikiya and the brachas. It is similar to Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Yehuda Rosh Hashanah talking b'shal zacharim, but Yovel b'shal ye'elim. Rabbi Yehuda says though on Rosh Hashanah we do not use a yael pashat. We do the temple the Beis Hamikdash did not use a yael pashat. It did not use a a wild goat's straight horn, but it used zucharim. It used this bent ram horn. Yovel shel ye'elim, and in Yovel they use the yal pashat, the straight wild goat horn. Amar of Levi. Gemara starts. Amar of Levi. Mitzvah Rosh Hashanah v'shel Yom Kippur mekufufim. He says the mitzvah of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is bent. V'shel kol Hashanah b'pshutim. And any other time of the year, the rest of the year, it's be straight. We're talking about. Hold on a second. And the rest of the Tinus. It means on the Tinus. So I have to find Rashi. Vadnan. Oh, so that's what Levi said. He taught that it should be a bent shofar on Rosh Hashanah, and during the fast days it should be straight, which is exactly the opposite of a Mishnah. Vadnan shofar Rosh Hashanah should yal pashet who pashet. So it says who the Amar ki haitana. So the answer is that Levi, who said it should be bent, unlike the Mishnah, who said it should be straight. Who the Amar ki haitana, the Tanya, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, he's holding like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rosh Hashanah Yitokim b'shal Zacharim kfufim v'yovel shal ye'elim. So Levi just taught like the other Tana. So the Gemara asked, so why didn't Levi just say the halach is like Rabbi Yehuda? You don't have to start making it sound like you're saying a novel idea. Rabbi Yehuda said this in the Mishnah. Just say the halach is like Rabbi Yehuda. So the Gemara says, like Rabbi Yehuda. If Levi had just said the halach is like Rabbi Yehuda, Yovel nami Rabbi Yehuda. Like you would think that Levi holds like Rabbi Yehuda also when it comes to Yovel. Kamashlan b'may kimiflagi. Kamash Malan, that he doesn't hold like Rabbi Yehuda when it comes to Yovel, that you should use a yal pashat, that you should use a straight horn on Yovel. He holds like Rabbi Yehuda when it comes to Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, rather on Rosh Hashanah, that you should use a bent horn, but not like Rabbi Yehuda when it comes to Yovel, that you should straight on. You should also use a bent horn, like Yom Kippur. So Rosh Hashanah rather. So what we're having is again, we have the Tanakama had said that you should use on Rosh Hashanah a straight horn, and on the Tinus you should use a bent horn. Rabbi Yehuda said on Rosh Hashanah you should use a bent horn, and on the Tinus you should use a straight horn. And Levi Paskin, mostly he Paskin like Rabbi Yehuda, except when it came to Yovel, he Paskin you should also use a bent horn on Yovel, unlike Rabbi Yehuda who said you should use a straight horn on Yovel. Okay, so the Gemara says, what is their argument? And this is just kind of like a musar about Rosh Hashanah in general. Marsav Rosh Hashanah the common the kayef inshi daite tfei says Rosh Hashanah. He says Rosh Hashanah. The more that a person kind of bends themselves and is submissive on Rosh Hashanah, that is better. And on Yom Kippur, the more that a person is straight. No, a second. Yeah, I got that right. Yeah. So the more that a person is, one second, I'm in Rashi for a second. On Yom Kippur. Yeah. Okay. What does it say? His attitude. How does he read? How does he say it over there?
The better it is, therefore, for the straight chauffeur to be used to reflect his attitude of freedom.
His attitude of freedom. Does it say any reason for that? Interesting.
The chauffeur sounded a proclamation of emancipation.
Okay, fine. There you go. The Yom Kippur. Okay, it's just that was the piece I was missing. Yom Kippur is not referring to a shofar that's blown on Yom Kippur. Like, I just didn't make the connection myself. But Yom Kippur is referring to the Yovel. So on Yovel, we're blowing the shofar in order to proclaim freedom for the slaves and also for all the ancestral all the ancestral properties go back. They go back to their original land, original owners. So Yom Kippur, the more that the shofar is straight, it's more proclaiming freedom. So that's the reason why You do on Rosh Hashanah, a person wants to be bent, so use a bent shofar. On Yom Kippur, we're trying to declare freedom, so use a straight shofar. Umar Savar, the other opinions that held not this way, they held that a straight shofar is used on Rosh Hashanah rather. Rosh Hashanah come the pashat inish daititfei, Miley. The more that a person is straight, because a person's trying to lift themselves up to Hashem, so to speak, trying to lift their hearts up to Hashem, is better. Ubetainis come the kaif inshe daititfei, Miley. But when a person's on a fast day, Yom Kippur is a fast day, a person is supposed to be bent in tshuva. Okay, next page. We're turning the page. Now the Mishnah said, this is on Chav Zayin Amud Aleph. Is that today's page? Or that's still one day behind? What's today, 27? Okay. What time does davening start today? 45? Okay, I'm just going to take... I'm still going to take another minute. The mouth is covered with gold. But the Brisa says that if you cover the mouthpiece with gold, if you cover the mouthpiece with anything, as a matter of fact, the shofar is possible. You can't cover the mouthpiece. So, because the person's not blowing the shofar, they're blowing out of the mouthpiece. So the Gemara says, how does the Mishnah say that it could be covered with gold? But if you cover it somewhere else on the shofar, theoretically it would be kasha. So the Gemara is asking this question on the Mishnah. It says, it's not talking about covering the mouthpiece, it's covering us somewhere else on the shofar. It's on the, I guess it must have been on the mouth area, but not on the exact where the person would put their lips. It would have to be further down. This next Gemara is a great halacha Gemara, but I guess, since we're going to start, so we're one daf behind. Tomorrow, what are we doing tomorrow? What did we do last week? What should we do? Oh, you know what? It's too hard to do before Mincha. Instead of Mincha. If we had a couple more people at Daf Yomi, we just make our own Mincha and then just go straight to take Shal Shadas here and just go straight through. Okay, Eric, get in touch with. I'm going to put it on. Does anybody have a problem if I just put it on the WhatsApp? Besides Eric, just text me before Shabbos. I have to speak. Next week it's not. Next week it's a no-brainer because then for sure it's going to be before Shabbos because we're moving the clock. This is the last week where it's up on the question. Okay, everybody.